Hey guys, it's Yuto here from slushyrecipes.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make a smooth velvety caramel Basque style cheesecake. This dessert originated from a restaurant in Spain and now very popular in Japan. First, let's look at the equipment you'll need. This recipe can make 6 muffin-sized cheesecakes or one large one in a 15cm cake tin. You'll need to line them with either 6 muffin cases or a large piece of baking parchment. Then you'll need a heat-proof bowl, a whisk, a silicone spatula and a mesh strainer. Next, let's go over the ingredients. For the caramel sauce, all we need is 25 grams of granulated white sugar and 2 tablespoons of water. Then for the Basque cheesecake itself, we're gonna use 3 slices of processed cheese, 2 tablespoons of whole milk, 100 grams of cream cheese, preferably Philadelphia, 50 grams of white granulated sugar, 1 tablespoon of honey, 2 teaspoons of unsalted butter, 1 egg white, 2 egg yolks, 1 tablespoon of cake flour, a pinch of salt, and 200 milliliters of heavy cream with at least 36% butterfat. So we're gonna start by making the caramel first. Take a small pan, a milk pan is good size, and add 25 grams of sugar and half tablespoon of water. Turn the heat on medium and let it bubble until it turns slightly golden. I know it's tempting, but don't mix it or interfere with it. Just keep watching it so you can see when the color starts to change. Basque cheesecake with caramel is very popular in Japan, and actually my recipe is heavily inspired by a caramel Basque style cheesecake called Baschee sold at the convenience store Lawson. A few minutes have passed and I can see the caramel turning a golden color, so keep back, wear long sleeves and an oven glove, and then pour in another half tablespoon of water. As you can see, there's a big reaction when you add the water. You've got to be careful not to get splashed or burnt. I gave the pan a quick swirl and returned it straight back to the heat. This time we're waiting for it to turn more of a deep amber color. Once it's looking darker, again stand back and add 1 tablespoon of water. Lift the pan and swirl it around. This helps distribute the water through the caramel and also helps cool it down. It will look quite runny, but that's fine, it gets thicker when it cools down. We're gonna set that aside and line our baking tins. So first I have a 15cm cake tin with a removable base. It's not essential, but it makes it easier to lift the cheesecake out of the tin. Line the cake tin with baking paper, just kinda scrunch it up and push it down like this. It doesn't need to be neat. Basque cheesecake has a rustic look and this crumbled baking paper adds to the character. Because my cake tin has a removable base, I'm also wrapping foil around the bottom. You don't have to do this if you have a regular cake tin, but if you have a removable base like me, this will prevent any leaks. Finally, we add half of the caramel mixture and just spread it over the base. The flavor is kinda absorbed by the cheesecake, it's very delicious. If you're using muffin tin, you can just use regular size muffin cases like this, and if you want to make this size but don't have a muffin tin, you can also place the cases in bakeable ramekins if you like. Again, you would use half the caramel to spread on the bases, just add a thin layer to each muffin case. So now we're gonna move on to making the cheesecake itself. I recommend letting all of your ingredients reach room temperature for about 30 minutes to an hour and preheat in the oven just before you start making your Basque cheesecake. All ovens vary, so you might have to adjust this slightly, but for the large version I preheat to about 230 degrees Celsius. If you're making the muffin size ones, I set the oven to 210 degrees Celsius. So first take a heat-proof bowl and add 3 slices of processed cheese. Just rip it up into small pieces because we're going to melt it. You might be surprised to see this kind of cheese in a cheesecake recipe, but it adds the perfect amount of cheesiness and I found it greatly improves the texture of the cheesecake. Next, add 2 tablespoons of whole milk. We're going to microwave it in 30 seconds intervals and mix each time until it's melted. I microwaved it 3 times and now it's this smooth consistency. Now I'm gonna add cream cheese. I have Philadelphia cream cheese here and I'm just gonna mix it in. I like using a whisk here just to help break it up. It's room temperature and the mixture is warm, so it mixes it in pretty easily, but if your cream cheese is still a bit cold, you can microwave it for 20 seconds or so to warm it up. While it's warm, I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of butter. This is to give the cheesecake a richer taste. It's just gonna melt right in. Once it's smooth, we can add the sugar. I'm using white granulated sugar. It should just dissolve into the mixture. This is looking good, so now I'm gonna add a tablespoon of honey. Honey really complements the flavor of the cheese and adds a sweetness and a bit of depth of flavor too. For the eggs, we're using 2 yolks and 1 egg white, so let's separate the first egg. Crack the second egg and then mix it with the first yolk. I'm using a fork and gently whisking it. Don't let it get foamy. We're trying to prevent air bubbles. Basque cheesecake in Japan uses higher ratio of egg yolks and this helps prevent that egg whitey taste that you can sometimes have in baked cheesecake. It also stops it from rising too much as well. Add about 1/4 of the whisked egg to the cheesecake mixture and mix it gently with spatula. Once it's incorporated, sift in 1 tablespoon of flour. I'm using cake flour, but plain all-purpose flour also works. It's only a small amount of flour for some added stability. Mix it gently until the lumps are more or less gone and then gradually add the rest of the egg, little by little. Like I mentioned before, we're trying to prevent making air bubbles in the mixture. Adding the ingredients gradually means less mixing and therefore less air bubbles. If the mixture gets too airy, it's gonna rise more in the oven and it might get cracks, which doesn't look good. Finally, we're gonna add the cream. I'm using 200 milliliters and adding it 1/3 at a time. This cream has 36% butter fat content and would be equivalent to heavy cream in the US. If you can get 48% cream, that's even better. If you live in the UK, double cream is perfect for this recipe. Once it's all mixed in, add a pinch of salt and mix one more time. We're going to pass it through a mesh strainer to remove any lumps and make it extra silky and smooth. Your mixture should be very thin and pass through very easily. Now we can transfer it to the baking tin. When I'm making the muffin-sized cheesecakes, I find it easier to pour the mixture into a jug and then pour it into the cupcake cases. Use a bamboo skewer or toothpick to pop any air bubbles that rise to the top. When you're placing it in the oven, put it on the top shelf to help brown the top of the cheesecake. We're gonna bake the big one for 20 minutes and the small ones for 12 minutes. We're looking for the tops to already start turning brown. If they're not brown after the time I've stated, bake them for a few more minutes. My Basque cheesecakes have started changing colour, so I'm gonna take them out briefly and brush the rest of the caramel over the top. Be as gentle as possible, try not to break the surface like I have here. Return them to the oven and lower the heat. For the large cheesecake, I've turned it down to 200 degrees Celsius, and for the muffin size ones, I've lowered it to 180 degrees Celsius. Bake them for an extra 5 to 10 minutes, keep an eye on them, and when they're brown enough, you can take them out. So I'm happy with the tops. As you can see, the mixture is still very wobbly. That's okay because it's gonna continue to cook with the residual heat. I'm gonna let them cool down for about an hour and then put them in the fridge overnight. I recommend making this recipe in the evening so that it has a full night in the fridge before serving. The large one needs about 3 to 4 hours of chilling time at least. The smaller ones probably only need a couple hours. So I'm gonna go to sleep and show you the result in the morning. So these cheesecakes have all been chilling in the fridge overnight, about 12 hours in total. I'm gonna take the big one out first, pushing the base up from the bottom. If you don't have a removable base on your cake tin, you can carefully pull the edges of the baking paper to lift it out. Carefully peel off the paper and then let's cut a slice. And then here are the smaller ones. You might find they've sunk a bit in the middle. This is perfectly normal for Basque cheesecake. Let's cut it in half to see inside. As you can see, the texture is set perfectly. So there you have it, delicious Japanese style caramel Basque cheesecake. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoy making and eating this recipe. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more Japanese recipes. I hope to see you again in the next video. Thanks again.